Hey, anybody else think that this is a pretty relevant clip that I'm going to show you later on when we talk about Jake Paul and Mike Perry? The footage of them sparring 3 years ago. So we're going to look at that when we talk about this fight. Let's go. All right, Jesse on Fire, welcome back. We got a bunch of stories to go through. Big fight announcement between Mike Perry and Jake Paul. And I'll tell you when that is. Very notable date. A very notable date when they're fighting. And I'll tell you exactly why. Like it's very interesting to think about, like, where is this fight happening? Because the date is very telling, and we'll talk about that. I want to talk about this again because the Conor McGregor, Ariel Helwani, Michael Chandler fight, I think that I know what's going on now. And it's not what I said yesterday. I think I know what's going on. All right. We're going to lead off with that story, actually, because we have so many other good stories to talk about. Because you know what else we're going to talk about? We're going to talk about Jiri Prochazka signing a bout agreement, because guess what? Apparently, when I said that Jiri and Poatan, Alex Pereira, had signed to be the headliner in Perth, people pointed out that's a fake Dana White account. And I was like, nah. And I went and looked, and it was. Literally looks just like Dana White's account. It has a video of Dana, right? And then under it, it says signed. Okay. I'm embarrassed I didn't watch the video, so I'm an idiot. But I think that is the fight anyway. That's going to be the fight anyway. All right. So I was wrong, but I was right, kind of. What? But he did get me, dude. I hate getting got, man. I hate getting got. And that's what we're going to do. Oh, also, I got to show you guys this clip. I got to show you this, guys. You guys have to see this clip of Chael bringing his son onto the stage. Actually, I'm starting there. I just changed my mind. We're going to start with Chael's son right after this. But go ahead and subscribe to the channel if you haven't yet. Join the most thriving community in the MMA space. And also start with the Chael Sonnen clip, because obviously he's fighting Anderson Silva this weekend. And this clip is amazing. He brought up his son, Thero, onto the stage. Gabrielle and I got to actually hang out with Thero and Chael at the Dallas event when Jake Paul fought against Nate Diaz. And so, like, Chael was there. It was like all adults. And then it was just Chael and his son, Thero, in the pool. It's not easy to be an 8-year-old in a pool full of adults. Very well-behaved kid, man. This is coming from someone with 3 daughters who go to the pool all the time. Very well-behaved kid, dude. He handled himself really well. He's a stud. Anyway, so this is Chael bringing his son on stage. And you just consider when you watch this, what is Chael, like, Chael, obviously an exceptional fighter, but I mean, no one is better than Chael on the mic promoting fights. And now he's got his son on stage for the first time, and he's putting a microphone in his face during a fight promotion.
Can I beat Anderson Silva?
Yeah, I mean, in my opinion, I think he's faster than him. I really do.
You mentioned that last night. You said he's faster than me, which was a big surprise. Watch this. Are you ready? Ready? Do you think he can move that fast?
Probably.
All right, so he's faster than me, but what else? Look at how big, look at the steroids. Hey, look how big I am.
Look at the steroids. Look at how big I am.
What was the question?
Can I beat Anderson Silva?
Yes.
Are you sure?
Yeah.
How do I beat him?
Use your power. Oh, cheat.
Wise. And by the way, he had asked a question, but just to answer it, does George Masvidal suck?
I could beat him with a flip-flop.
I believe it.
Something tells me that is a Fed line, and that's where you find out, it's like all the other stuff is like put the kid, put like a 9 or 10-year-old on the spot. It's like, hey, do you think I could whatever? But it's like, line that you practiced, here you go. Could I beat George Masvidal? You could beat him with a flip-flop and delivered it well. Congratulations to both Chael and his son, because I thought that went really well. So now we move over to what I'm going to call the Conor McGregor and Ariel Helwani story, because I think there's more than meets the eye going on right here. And I had, I did a video about this yesterday in case you haven't seen it. But I have a completely different take now, so I want to show it to you guys too. I'll just show you guys this really quick segment on it, and then just in case you guys didn't see, and then I'm going to tell you what I think is actually going on. I had a fair number of people like kind of reach out to me saying like, this is what they think is going on. And the more I thought about it, the more I was like, I think they're right, dude. I really do. So anyway, watch this really quick. This is kind of current status of the Conor McGregor fight.
Ariel Helwani provides a worrying update on the Conor McGregor vs. Michael Chandler fight situation. Last week, concerns arose that the UFC 303 bout between Conor McGregor and Michael Chandler might be canceled. The potential cancellation sparked numerous online theories and unconfirmed claims that McGregor had suffered an injury. However, Fans have since been reassured when McGregor posted a training update on social media, and Chandler gave an interview confirming that the main event with McGregor is still on. Now taking to X, Ariel has provided an inside update on the fight, writing, "But since this morning, multiple sources are now saying feelers are being sent out again for June 29th for a replacement and or new fight. In short, there seems to be pessimism all over again regarding the status of the 303 main event. Actually, even more pessimism, it seems, than on Monday last week after the presser was canceled at the last minute. Is this insurance, due diligence, emergency replacement mode? Remains to be seen. It's all developing again. But it doesn't appear as though we are out of the woods either way just yet. More to come, and hopefully a definitive answer one way or the other in short order." Drake is
So here's the deal. So I interpreted that yesterday as this fight is most likely going to get canceled, because I also had heard earlier in the day from a very credible source, like they're on the precipice of canceling the fight. So, yeah, I don't think that's the case anymore at all. I think, and I agree with the people, everybody who reached out to me yesterday. You guys know who you are with that theory, the theory that this is all mind games that Conor's playing with Chandler. I'm on board with that now. Now I am on board with that. And Conor is the king of mind games. The king of mind games, dude. He doesn't want to do press either. He hates doing pre-fight press. Now, this being International Fight Week, there is another option that we'll go over too. But I think the most likely thing here, and I could be proven wrong by the end of the day. I could be proven wrong literally by the end of the day. But as of this moment, I think Conor is fucking with Chandler. That's what I think is going on. I think that he is trying to make Michael Chandler question whether or not the fight's going to happen and break him off of his mental game, because that is exactly what it would do. It's inevitable. You know, think about that level of mental warfare. Okay, Chandler has been waiting for this fight through. I mean, he's like, what? I think he's 38, 37, 38. Either way, if he's 37 or 38, whatever it is. Okay, he's been waiting for this fight an amount of time where he could have fought 3 times, okay? It's impossible that Chandler, as a human being, is not going to be thinking like, man, I could have fought this guy and beat him, fought this guy and beat him. I could be fighting for the title right now, and I waited for Conor, and then we get to the bottom of the 9th, and this guy's out. He's out, and then, we're talking about replacements. Conor knows everyone's going to be hitting up Chandler. Hey, what do you know, man? Hey, I heard that they're talking to this guy. I was guilty of that. I personally was guilty of exactly this, right? Because the rumor mill went bananas. And if you're Chandler, unless you're on the inside, unless this is a promotional, thing that you are on the inside of, which is not impossible also, if Conor just doesn't want to do media and they're like, all right, so we're going to pretend like maybe he's injured and Chandler knows, and Chandler completely knows that that's what they're doing, then maybe. But I think equally or more likely, it's Conor fucking with Chandler, right? Because of course, then Chandler's going to have to start thinking, well, what if it ended up being Max Holloway? Like, what if it ended up being this guy? What if Khabib came back? You know what I mean? Like, how would you not do that? So that's my bet. Now, here's the other question that you have to have. Is there any scenario where the UFC knows that is what Conor's doing, and they're letting Chandler think that maybe Conor's out? Because that would be a level of conspiracy I would be uncomfortable with, right? And then Ariel, who has been on the inside of this all along, it seems like, is he a genuine insider or a useful idiot? You know what a useful idiot is? You guys, like, it doesn't mean that he's actually an idiot. It means that he thinks he's an insider, but they are actually feeding disinformation through him, right? Like he thinks that Conor has some kind of, nagging injury, and they're really not sure. They're not really sure, whether he's going to make it. And so Ariel is doing his reporting, and in reality, it's all a game to fuck with Chandler when there is no chance that Conor walks from this fight. Now, I told you guys that the first day this happened, Chael told me straight up, he said he'd bet 50 grand. He would bet $50,000 that this fight happens. Okay. And he's like, and he didn't follow it. He's like, I am not a $50,000 bet guy, but I'd bet $50,000 that the fucking fight happens. And I was like, damn. So the more that this goes on and you hear nothing from the UFC, the more I come back to that from Chael, and I'm like, man, I bet you he was right. This is probably all a fucking game, you know? And I hope that is the case. Now, what I really hope is I hope that what's really going on, here's the other option, is that Conor just does not want to do media. He doesn't want to do any fucking media. He doesn't want to do any media at all, and this is his way of getting out of it in a way that is not, you know, I don't know, just Conor saying, I don't want to do any media, and Chandler's on the inside of it. And when I looked back at my original, like, interaction with Chandler the day that this started, it does kind of read like that. Because I thought I was reaching out to him with this like insider info about Conor's fucking injury that I figured he knew. And the way he responded was very nonchalant, kind of the way that like a Cheshire cat kind of like person would, where they're like, oh, wow, sounds serious. He literally said, sounds serious about the way that I, like, because I was like, you know, I heard whatever. And he's like, whoa, sounds serious. And now I look back at it now, it really sounds like he's like, ooh, wow, big insider info, big Jesse on fire. You got the big inside track, like a person who knows that it's none of this shit is true and I'm a fucking idiot, which is hilarious to me. And I hope that that's the fit. But listen, that's all anybody can do is just fucking speculate. That's all we can do is speculate and hope this fight happens. And that is, but where I'm at right now is that the fight is happening and this is all disinformation. That's what I'm saying. Unless the UFC fucking says something, I don't believe any of this shit. All right, now let's talk Jake Paul, Mike Perry.
It is set for July 20th. According to Happy Punch, Jake Paul will face Platinum Mike Perry in the ring on July 20th after his controversial bout with Mike Tyson has been postponed. A formal announcement is expected to be made on Wednesday by Paul and Most Valuable Promotions.
Now, this certainly seems pretty relevant, right? Seems pretty relevant. When Mike Perry and Jake Paul sparred 3 years ago, this is what happened. Jake Paul, he was light work. In his own words, you kick my ass. I want to see Jake Paul versus Dustin Probert. Watch this.
Good job, dude. Kick my ass. No, it's good, bro. Good work.
And then we have this from Mike Perry. The only clip we got, go ahead and post some, Jake Paul. I took your best shots and walked you down all day. We all know I'm not hard to hit, but I'm going to focus on that now, yada, yada. I mean, there's just no question when you read this that Jake Paul beat him up in sparring. Now watch, here's the only clip that we got. Hey, but guess what? You know who's gotten a little better in the last 3 years? Mike Perry. You know who's gotten a little better in the last 3 years? Jake Paul. Give me that fight, son. And here's another point we're going to talk about later. Who has more to lose in this fight, July 20th, okay? Mike Perry or Jake Paul? If Mike Perry gets starched by Jake Paul, what does he lose? Huh? Or if Jake Paul gets starched by Mike Perry, what does he lose? There's no question who has more to lose in this fight, and it ain't Mike Perry. Let me tell you the most important part of that story, okay? Well, two things, okay? There are two things that everybody needs to consider. One, why is this fight happening? Why is this fight? Why is Jake Paul fighting Mike Perry on July 20th, okay? Because you have two potential reasons, and both of them are very different from each other, and they can't both be true at the same time. Your first option is not a very exciting one. It's that Jake and MVP had already booked AT&T and the fighter hotels and all of that stuff, and they're looking and they're like, we literally cannot afford to not go through with this event now. We have to put on an event July 20th, so we got to get someone important that we can potentially build the fight around. And that is option one. They're kind of trapped into having to fulfill the obligations that they signed on for when they booked the Mike Tyson fight. It's not a simple thing to just go, I mean, they booked AT&T, dude. AT&T. That's dude, the fucking Dallas Cowboys play there. You think there's no deposits, you know, when you book that stadium? Because guess what? When you book a Saturday, a summer date at the Dallas Cowboys stadium, okay, you have to commit to a certain amount of money, right? You're going to have a deposit that's going to be enormous. How do we know that? Simple. Because if you don't put the event on, they could have had they could have had like a Kiss concert. That's the first thing I came up with. They could have had like they could have had Beyonce play there that day, right? You're talking about enormous. Could have had Taylor Swift play there that day. You could have had one of these huge concerts. Like, you can't just like, hey guys, turns out one of our fighters backed out, so we're actually not going to put on the event. It's enormously expensive to cancel the event. And so it's highly probable that they looked at the numbers. They're like, we can't do this. We got to put on an event, which means they got to go get someone big. Mike Perry is the most interesting fight that they could probably put on right then, but it brings a very different thing into play, right? So let's assume that's probably what's going on, in my opinion. I reached out to MVP to find out if it's still happening at AT&T, and so we'll know if that's the truth, or not know for sure, but if it's still at AT&T, huge indicator that that's what's going on, right? Have you ever seen the UFC straight up cancel an event, right? I think they did that one time, and that was a long time ago. So we'll know soon. The other one is that Jake is like, no, I'm in camp. I'm fighting in July. Get me a fight. Give me a big fight. Now, I think number one is most likely. I'm sure Jake is excited to fight. And so but like, it's possible Jake's just like, get me another fight. But dude, this is extremely risky. This is a really, really risky fight. Huge risk. Okay. The risk to Jake Paul and MVP for taking this Mike Perry fight is enormous, because what happens if Jake loses? What happens if Jake loses by knockout? What if Mike Perry knocks out Jake Paul? Okay? How do you think the ticket sales are going to be for the Mike Tyson fight in the event that Jake gets starched by Mike Perry? That's gonna be very bad for ticket sales. Now, when it comes to like viewership numbers, everybody's going to watch it anyway. But I'm sure that a significant portion of the money is going to be coming from the ticket sales. I have no idea. Netflix pays an outlandish amount of money for these things. Like I've been hearing they pay these comedians. I could probably actually find out, what they pay for these comedians. But nonetheless, it's it's a lot of money that's going to be coming from the gate, right? So what happens if Jake gets starched? It's a much less interesting fight if you see Jake get flatlined. And Mike Perry can flatline him. Absolutely. Now, Jake Paul, little known fact, Jake Paul and Mike Perry have sparred before. This is years ago. And Mike Perry came out. He's like, dude, he's good. This is way before everyone recognized that Jake was good. This is when people still thought Jake was like a joke, right? And Mike Perry was like, you guys are tripping. He's good, dude. He's good. And I thought it was hilarious when people were like, oh, okay, Mike Perry, he's good. Whatever, bro. I'm like, this is one of those moments, right? Where a brain surgeon is like, listen, you need to be very careful when you do a frontal cortex surgery, because if you cut a little bit too close to the yada yada, then you whatever. And just regular Joes are all, oh, okay, dude. Everybody knows you can get as close as you want to the frontal cortex without injuring whatever. You're like, what do you know about brain surgery? They're all, a lot, dude. I watched YouTube videos about it. It's like, he's a fucking brain surgeon. Okay. Hey, Jesse, did you just figure out a way to compare Mike Perry to a brain surgeon? Yes, I did. I bet my buddy $50 that I could make a comparison between Mike Perry and a brain surgeon that would make sense. Get the fuck off me. That's me winning that bet, because here's the other side of it. Mike Perry had fought Jake Paul, had sparred against Jake Paul. He's telling you that he's good, and you're arguing with him. What the fuck do you know? Have you ever sparred against Jake Paul? Are you a professional fighter known primarily for your striking? Okay, if you're not, if you haven't both sparred against Jake Paul and are a Mike Perry level striker, then you are basically the person who's talking about brain surgery to a fucking brain surgeon. You can't argue with him. I like that whole thing. There was like a dividing line where I'm like, everybody who's on this side telling Mike Perry that Jake Paul sucks is one of those people that where you're like, you can just discount their opinion on things, anything related to Jake Paul, because they're clearly biased and ignorant to how biased they are, because you can't know better than him, dude. It is not possible for you to know better than him, you fucking idiot. Okay? Anyway, but yeah. Pretty proud of myself, dude. You thought I couldn't do it. You know exactly who you are, guy. You thought I couldn't do it, and I did. Okay? I used to do this all the time for like at my brother's, when I was the best man at my brother's wedding. And I like to like guys who are it was actually my brother's friends that I'm also friends with. They're like, hey, what are you going to say in your speech? I'm like, I have no fucking plan. They're all, you have no plan. I'm like, I have no fucking plan. And they're like, are you nuts? I'm like, dude, come on, dog. it'll be good. And they were like, I'm like, give me something ridiculous that I could throw it. I'll work anything into this speech and I'll make it make sense. And they were like, all right, you just like, because we had just talked about how my softball team won the championship. They're all, okay, you have to talk about your softball team's championship and how, you know, that your guys' team was awesome and you won the title and you have to make it make sense. And I was like, that's easy, dude. And they're like, that's not easy. And so in my brother's fucking best man speech, I went on this whole thing and then I talked about my softball championship, and you'll hear, you know, in the video, you can hear all of them go, oh, because it made perfect sense. Just like my comparison between Mike Perry and a fucking brain surgeon. So you owe me $50, son. I can't actually remember what the bet was. We talked 50, we talked 100. I don't think we ever, settled on a number, but you don't actually have to pay me, but you can definitely say you win. Anyway, that's what I got. Subscribe to the channel, ring the bell. Love you guys. Bye-bye.